You know, I say this every time, but I think it rings true, Brandon. When we're having fun before we've even hit the record button, I know we're in for a great night. And we have two great guests who we've been very fortunate to get to know over the years, be part of some cool experiences that they've done and watch this brand build. So I'm really excited to go through some pours and dive deeper into their brand. Brandon, what says you? Because you've been a part of this journey with me too.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's always good to get our good friends back on the show. We've not seen and talked to them in a minute, but I'm excited to see what's new and just catch up with them.
And we have two great guests. They are the co-founders of Kentucky Senator Bourbon. Let's welcome in Damon Thayer and Andre Regard.
Hey,
Yeah,
thanks,
welcome.
thanks for having us, guys. I think you guys were there for our first ever liquor barn single barrel pick back
Yes.
five years ago.
Yep.
When that was our second release, the William J. DeVoe release, and
That's when the
that was the
cat stole
first.
the show.
What's that?
That's when the cat stole the show, getting up high in the
Yeah.
little rafter area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the that's that was that bottling was at Bluegrass Distillers, their original location on West Sixth,
Yep.
and they do have a pretty cool distillery cat.
But
That's awesome.
but I'm excited to have both of you on because you guys, since that barrel pick, you guys are on release 7 coming out this year. A few weeks after this drops will happen. You've also got a brand extension and are doing something slightly different with your single barrel. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. So let's jump into the first pour, which is last year's release, which is release 6, the John Edwards release. What can you tell us about this one? Give us the details.
Well, how about I'll do Kentucky Senator Edwards, and then we'll let Andre do the Huey Long because he's from Louisiana. So
Yep.
the John Edwards release was our sixth release in 2025. 7.5 years old. Our small batch is always 107 proof. The mash bill on it is 75, 21, and 4. And it's named not for the North Carolina John Edwards. This is named for the OG John Edwards, Kentucky's second U.S. Senator from Bourbon County, coincidentally. He's buried in the Paris Cemetery. And he was one of the founders who helped make Kentucky the 15th state back in 1792. And it's early in the awards season, but we just found out that this won a double gold from the Barleycorns Awards. We submitted it to a few others, and yep,
Nice.
we got the sticker, and
Nice.
we're pretty proud of it. It's the first in a 3-year vertical, so when we talk about this year's release, it'll be the second in this vertical. It'll go from last year's 7.5-year-old to this year's 8.5-year-old. And we've been getting great reviews. Fred Minnick named it to his top 100 whiskeys. It came in at number 85. And we get great reviews on it. Andre and I do tastings all over the place. It's a really smooth drinker. And I'll defer to my business partner to fill in any blanks.
Well, I agree with everything Damon said. It's been really, really well received, and it's just very easy to drink. A lot of caramel, very smooth, and we are. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. We are really excited about how it's going to, mature. We actually know because we've been tasting this year's release as well. That we're going to be releasing, and we'll be talking about a little bit more in the show. So it's done exactly what we wanted it to do, and it's just an easy drinker.
So you guys know these are vintage limited edition releases. Once they're gone, they're gone. There are bottles available at Liquor Barn Hamburg in Lexington and throughout the state. We're well distributed by Kentucky Eagle to bars and restaurants and liquor stores throughout the state. Frank and Dino's restaurant in Lexington, one of the few places you can find all 6 of our releases. They actually have a cocktail called the Senator. It's the top cocktail on their cocktail list, and it's made from this 7.5-year John Edward at 107 proof. It holds up really well in a cocktail. Also, it is available online in 40 or so states at bourbonoutfitter.com. Our friends at Justin's House of Bourbon, they also operate Bourbon Outfitter. They did a single barrel pick of this last year. It's pretty much sold out at both the Lexington and Louisville locations, but it's still available with limited quantities remaining at bourbonoutfitter.com. They've got the small batch and the single barrel pick that Ryan and his group did. Ryan Alvis, the GM at Justin's.
I love the legs. Just even before we get into the pour, watching it on the glass, it just it's leaving some legs there, and I feel like that's always a good sign before you even get into anything else.
Absolutely.
Gotta like good right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It has a great nose too. I love the nose on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that deep. It's almost like you're smelling like just a really good, deep, well-made old fashioned. Almost, you kind of get the fruity flavor and for me anyway, the fruity scents on it. But man, like you said, like y'all both of you, Damon and Andre, like it's just an easy drinker. Like, and it's about as smooth as you can get. And it drinks true to the proof. It doesn't drink any lower or any higher. It drinks that right in that wheelhouse of 107. And
as you can tell,
awesome.
I drink a lot of it here. I've killed probably 3 or 4 bottles already this year.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm gonna have to go to Liquor Barn and buy more because this is my last bottle. Because Andre and we don't hold much back. We put it all out there for the public.
Well, I'm thankful you gave us.
I got to restock too.
An additional bottle for tonight, because what we love to do, and I was thinking of this, and I wish I had told you this yesterday, is because the reason we don't have them is because we've been taking these out everywhere we go. If we go to Keeneland Tailgate or wherever, because we've enjoyed it so much. And I think the only thing we still have left is a little bit of the Louisiana Senator one. Now, thankfully, I've got a refill of the other one.
That's all I got left of the Louisiana.
There's not much of either because we've been enjoying them, and it's like I said, it's just got, as Brandon likes to say a lot, and I agree with this. This one's just kind of like that perfect number one heater down the middle. You know what you're getting. You're getting a very good bourbon. It drinks true. It drinks. I hate to use the cliche of smooth, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't burn. It doesn't give like a deep burn down the chest. It just has got good mouthfeel, good viscosity. It checks like every box that you would want.
Interesting thing about this, we all know it's a scientific fact that women have a better tasting palate for bourbon than men. And we've been doing tastings now since our 3rd release post-COVID when we could go back out on premise. We've had a lot of people taste our bourbon, and the response to this bourbon from women bourbon drinkers has been amazing. And obviously dudes like it too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Fred Minnick put it in his top 100. You guys like it. But the response from women bourbon drinkers has been almost consistent. Every time we can get a female bourbon drinker to try it at one of our tastings, she loves it. And I think it's because it's so smooth. It's got a nice bright nose, good mouthfeel, and a little bit of a burn, but not too stringent at all. And I also think that's one of the reasons why it holds up well in a cocktail. And our friend Carlo Vaccarezza, who owns Frank and Dino's, he bought a bunch of it and put a cocktail together, and it's a very unique cocktail recipe, by the way. If you ever go to Frank and Dino's, great Italian restaurant downtown Lexington, great bourbon selection, but we're pretty happy about their Kentucky Senator Bourbon selection there and the cocktail they've got on the menu.
Well, and to see, we've gotten to talk to you guys for a while, and the name Kentucky Senator Bourbon. I know if anyone kind of goes and looks, which you guys are history buffs, and you give a lovely story on the back of the bottle. We'll kind of get even more into the history with each of these releases. But how did y'all discover the name? Because it was a name that had been around, I believe. And why did you end up wanting to go with that? Because as we now know, there are some stipulations that you put on or were part of the process, Damon, at one of your former jobs of when you put Kentucky in the name, you're only putting Kentucky in the bottle.
I'm going to let Andre take that one.
Well, thanks. So Damon, when he was at the legislature, had been approached by one of his other senators who showed him the label. And, of course, it had been an old label that had not been in use. And I've done some legal work with Damon. So he came to me and he said, hey, I want to try to revive this label. I want to see if I can trademark it. Do you want to do it with me? And we were sitting at Malone's in Lexington and Hamburg, and over lunch we kind of discussed, well, what's the game plan? How are you going to do this? And we realized that we had some complementary talents and skills. So rather than me just do some legal work, we made a handshake and decided to go into business together and see if we could trademark this and revive this brand. Damon and I are good friends with the guys who have Pinhook, and in our conversation, we talked a little bit about Jamie Hill and his group and how they named all their different horses after all their different bourbons after horses they had owned in their racing stable. So we thought that would be a neat idea. We had no intention to own a distillery, and as we were thinking about what is it that we can do, and as non-distillery producers, do we want to have one consistent brand where we're always trying to hit the same mark, or do we want to try to go out and see what Kentucky has to offer and deal with different distilleries and different flavor profiles? So it kind of all lended itself to this idea of diversity and appreciation for various distilleries and bourbon, and that's what we've done with our brand. Damon and I have over 800 barrels of bourbon in storage currently, and we've dealt with 6 different mash bills, 5 different distilleries, and we're really about that transparency in dealing with these different distilleries. And as we look forward at what we're going to be releasing in the future, we know it's going to be different distilleries. We've already released from 3 different distilleries, and to the extent that we're able to tell that story, we do. Sometimes you can't because there's a non-disclosure agreement, but to the extent we can, we want to do that because we do think it's important to our label. So that was kind of our thinking. It did take us a while, though, to get it organized. There was a little hiccup at one point because we were looking at some out-of-state juice for a moment and realized that maybe that wasn't the best idea. Damon and I, we're both transplants to Kentucky. I'm from Louisiana. Damon's from Michigan, and we've both really, and I think I can speak for Damon, we like being in Kentucky. We like what Kentucky stands for. We're very supportive of the horse industry. We're obviously very supportive of the bourbon industry. So why would I want to be in Kentucky selling bourbon that's not from Kentucky? It's ridiculous. So we're going to sell Kentucky bourbon, and when we do our brand extensions, it's going to be Kentucky bourbon. Because that's our selling proposition, that we're going to present great Kentucky bourbon with a side of history to tell a great story of these wonderful distilleries that we have. One of the benefits, as we do these tastings, a lot of times people are like, well, you don't have a distillery. And I have the utmost respect for anybody who runs a distillery. It's a hard job. It's challenging. In some ways, it reminds me of breeding horses because you have all these inputs, and you have to wait and wait and wait, and you don't really know where your product's going to be until you get to that, to that particular point. You kind of tweak it along the way. Damon and I have the benefit of taking advantage of these great distillers that already exist, and then going out and finding product that we like. So we're going to curate that product. We're going to find product we like. We're going to invest in it, and then we're going to then do another step where we're going to decide, well, which barrels are we going to blend together? Which barrels are we going to partner up with people and do a single barrel releases? And it's just been a lot of fun. But that's how we add our value, is by curating it. And I think as we get into our 7th release now, people are appreciating that the product we're putting out is good product. It's hard when you begin because they're like, who are these guys? They don't have a distillery. What's their story? But, I think we've proven that we're selecting good product that people enjoy.
Yep.
And it's been great.
Absolutely.
We to go a little deeper into what Jonathan said. We back 6 or 7 years ago, we were chasing some MGP juice, and I called Eric Gregory, who I worked with at the Kentucky Distillers Association when I was in the Senate. We passed 20 bills in 10 years to help unleash the power of the bourbon industry. And I'll never forget calling Eric up. I said, Eric, I'm going to launch this brand. Andre and I found this great MGP juice. And he said, Senator, do you remember 5 years ago when we put that stipulation in the bill that if it says Kentucky on the label, it has to be Kentucky bourbon? And it was a total smack my head moment because I'd forgotten about it. I've voted on thousands and thousands of bills during my 22-year career in Frankfurt, and I forgot. So it took us a while to launch, but we did launch with that great 15-year-old product that we released actually 5 years ago this month during the ice storm in February of 2021. And Fred Minnick wrote about us in Forbes online. We were the 43rd best bourbon of the year, best 15-year-old bourbon out that year, and it kind of launched us into orbit. And here we are, getting ready to do our 7th release of Kentucky Senator Bourbon, and later this year we'll have the 2nd release of Louisiana Senator Bourbon, which, as Andre pointed out, is Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. It's just named for a senator from Louisiana. And as we expand to other states, we'll offer that. If they're going to buy Kentucky Senator Bourbon and they want to do a brand extension with a famous or infamous senator from their state, we'll work with a distributor and do that. And as a matter of fact, we've got online sales on our website right now, and the Louisiana Senator, which you're going to talk about in a little bit, is available at kysenatorbourbon.com. We don't have any Kentucky Senator Bourbon product left, but it'll be on there in about a month. So we're building out our online store and can ship to 43 states. And because the Louisiana Senator Bourbon isn't available anywhere except Louisiana, the Bayou State, we put it on our website. Sales have been going great. It's been really popular.
Very nice. Now, you mentioned that, Damon, that how it started, you came across this label, and then you wanted to revitalize the label and bring it back to life. Is that just something that you always wanted to do at heart, wanted to get into, start a bourbon business, or is that just an opportunity you saw and just say, hey, being an entrepreneur like you are, and it's like, I see an opportunity here, or is that just something that you kind of already, kind of had in your mindset for a long time? Like, hey, I want to, you've been in the legislature for 22 years in the state, and is it something you just kind of grew on you, and you're just like, man, like, it'd be really cool to start a bourbon brand or revitalize even a label
that's a
been
great
forgotten.
question. And I did not have a lifelong passion
Yeah.
to start my bourbon business. I didn't even start drinking bourbon
Yeah.
until my early to mid 40s.
Yeah.
I'm 58.
So just a few years ago, right? Just a few years ago.
Let's see, what was that? Probably in my mid 40s. And here's what happened. I'd never been around bourbon in my life. I grew up in northern Michigan where, the parents would gather around the campfire and drink, nasty Canadian whiskey, Well, the kids were playing hide and go seek in the woods. Parents were over there drinking this awful smell and stuff. So I was kind of turned off to the whole whiskey category. And then when the KDA started pushing pro-bourbon legislation back in 2009, my political philosophy as an old school Reagan Republican was to remove artificial barriers to free enterprise. And what the bourbon industry was trying to do to unravel all these post-prohibition restrictions on bourbon. It wasn't very long ago where you couldn't pair food with bourbon at distilleries. You couldn't have a cocktail. You could only sample a minimal amount. You could only buy a minimal amount. All these things that we take for granted now have been passed into law over the last 10 years. So I started working with the bourbon industry, not because I was a bourbon lover, but because it was consistent with my political philosophy.
Right.
So then I started getting invited to groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings at bourbon distilleries.
Yeah.
What happens when you go to a bourbon distillery for an event? They pass around samples.
Yep.
It would have been rude of me not to try the free samples. And so I started doing it, and I'm like, holy cow, this stuff is really good. So then I started collecting rare bourbons. I've always had kind of a collector's mentality going back to, when I was a kid and I collected comic books,
Right.
Tonka trucks when I was even younger,
Yep.
So I'd try to collect the Pappy Flight, the BTAC series, etc. Had myself kind of a little cool collection. I was turning into a little bourbon geek. And then Senator Jimmy Higdon from Marion County, who represents Nelson County, like half the world's bourbon is aging in his district. He brought me this old label, which you can check out on our website, kysenotorbourbon.com, of this, an eagle flying with an olive branch in its beak, Kentucky Senator Bourbon. And I thought, wow, what a cool thing to revive this brand. And that's, you heard the story from Andre.
Mm-hmm.
He did the research. As best we could tell, it was a shelf brand that started with Krigler and Krigler Distillery in Covington, and then was sold to Double Springs Distillers in Bardstown. And as best we can tell, it went out of business in the early 70s. And we decided to revive it and bring it back as a super premium brand. To tell the history of Kentucky's 66 U.S. senators. People say, well, are you going to run out of senators? I'm like, well, no, not anytime soon. There's 66 of them, and we've only done 7. So we can do this for a while.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling at some point there'll be a couple more. And Andre, for you, coming from Louisiana, I mean, were you drinking rum, beer? What did you get? How did you get into bourbon?
I guess we grew up drinking Jack Daniels and Old Charter, a little bit of Scotch. I started drinking bourbon in the horse business, and I was kind of a Woodford guy, and I enjoyed a Blanton's now and then. I really did not drink that much bourbon. I've always drank old fashions and whatnot. But when I moved to Kentucky, I moved here in '99. It turned out I had some family history that I really wasn't awfully aware of as a kid, which is that my 7th great-grandfather is Basil Hayden. So I'm a direct descendant of Basil Hayden.
What?
And so my father's grandfather went to high school in Bardstown. And excuse me, I said my father's grandfather. My father's grandfather went to high school in Bardstown, and he married a woman from Bardstown, and it was her father that started Old Granddad Whiskey, named after his grandfather, who was Basil Hayden. So it's been kind of I kind of knew about the family history, but the idea of owning a bourbon company really had not occurred to me. I was familiar with what Jamie Hill was doing, and I had talked to some people doing horse syndicates that were like, hey, that'd be fun to do a horse syndicate tied into a bourbon. But I never really paid that much attention to it. So in my law practice, though, I was starting to do some liquor licensing work when Damon approached me. It was already something that I started to have some exposure to. But to do a bourbon company was not something I grew up with. I didn't grow up wanting to distill. I didn't grow up on a distillery or anything like that. I'm just a fan of the beverage. And, I tell people if I lived in Idaho, I'd probably be a potato farmer. I'm just kind of like, if you're going to be there, be part of the culture and do something. And there's nothing more Kentucky than horses and bourbon. And Damon and I are both fortunate that we've been able to be involved in both of those industries in a lot of different capacities. And it's just a great thing to pair together. And hopefully in the future, we're going to be able to pair our bourbon and our love for the horse industry even more.
I love it. That's a heck of a family family history that you got, and that's really cool. But adding back to that, let's jump right into the next pour, and I'll let you, Andre. Louisiana Senator. This is the one. This is the batch number 1. This is the first batch. I know number 2 is in the works or on its way. But again, it's at 107 proof, the classic Kentucky Senator brand for the 107. But this is Louisiana Senator, 8 years. And release number 1 honors Huey P. Long.
Yep, we'll talk about it.
Nicknamed the Kingfish, which is really cool story that's on the back of the bottle. So tell us more about this one, Andre.
Sure. So it's a different mash bill, 78% corn, 13% rye, 9% malted barley. Different distillery than the John Edwards. Damon and I were able to acquire 18 barrels of this particular bourbon when it was 7 years old. Then Damon and I have done some contract distilling with Jane Bowie and Denny Potter, who have Potter Jane, and they've become good friends of ours. And we told them that we had these 18 barrels, so we asked them if they would collaborate with us and taste the 18 barrels, and we could work together on the blend. So we pulled all 18 samples, broke it up into kind of 3 categories, and then did the first blend. So we're really excited. The other 12 barrels are still with Jane and Denny. As a matter of fact, I called Jane today and told her we need to go ahead and pull samples from those 12 barrels and start thinking about what we're going to do next year. But, being from Louisiana, I told Damon that I would like to do a brand extension and try it in Louisiana. We did 1,000 barrels. 1,000 bottles. It was 6 barrels. So we sticking with what we've done the last few Kentucky releases. We did a single barrel version, and we did a small batch. It was actually the first single barrel we did that was at barrel strength. It came out at 115, and we did that in partnership with one of the bourbon societies in Louisiana. And it's been very well received. Also won a double gold from the John Barleycorn Award. So we had 2 entries. They both won double golds, and they're different juice. So makes Damon and I feel pretty good that we're sampling things. Look, we sample a lot of bourbon that we don't buy. We have a lot of people that send us samples, and going through that process and trying to decide what we can or can't do with it has been real exciting. My grandfather, my mother's father, was a senator in Louisiana, but was not a federal senator. He was a state senator.
Yeah, you got to watch those state senators, man.
So politics has always been popular in my family. And as we were coming to come up with a name, there is no more famous U.S. senator than Huey Long, who definitely is not only famous in Louisiana, but is famous in a lot of other places. Was really the founder of the New Deal, and just a great reputation in Louisiana. Liked to drink, so there's some great stories. He once said about Prohibition, somebody asked him what he was going to do about Prohibition, and his response was, not a damn thing. It's just a great way to recognize the state. When you look at the bottle, the colors are LSU colors, which Huey Long redid everything at LSU when he was governor. He hired the musicians that wrote the music. He built the football stadium, very, very involved in the university. And it's just been a lot of fun to do that brand extension down there.
Well, it's so different. This release is so different than the other one. This one I feel like has a little more fruit notes, comes in, just the noses, everything is different, and not in a bad way. It's just like you said, they're 2 different things. You can tell that, but they're also 2 very good pours, which is even better.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, we're glad you guys like it, and we feel validated by the fact that we submitted both of these to the Barleycorn Awards, and the Huey Long got a 92 out of 100, and the John Edwards got a 91 out of 100. Both got double golds, and not everybody pays attention to awards, but a lot of people do. I mean, it's helped make some brands, and our award collection is growing. I should have showed it to you when you stopped by the office the other day, Jonathan. You'll have to come back.
Yep,
So
next time.
you
Definitely.
never know what you're going to walk away with if you go visit the company.
All of a sudden, I'm there every Friday. Damon's like, "Get
Yeah.
out."
We'll make spots for you.
You know, there's also a great history, of course, between Louisiana and Kentucky when it comes to bourbon. You know, bourbon as we know it probably would not be as popular if it wasn't for the state of Louisiana and how that whiskey would leave Bourbon County, Kentucky, in barrels that were stamped Bourbon County, go down the Ohio, down the Mississippi, showed up in Louisiana. And then with the French influence, people started gravitating towards it. You know, there were lots of different whiskeys. Everybody was making whiskey. But they started gravitating towards that whiskey from Bourbon County, that bourbon whiskey, which now we just know as shorthand as being bourbon. So, great story connecting Louisiana and Kentucky, both personally and from a brand point of view, we think.
That just makes me sad I didn't think of that, because as soon as you said that, I went, oh my God, that's how bourbon, the aging process, the time it took to go down the Ohio into the Mississippi is basically how, America's Spirit was born. And that, I love that. And I love the history that you all do with everything, intentionally or unintentionally. What's it like going about selecting the senators or selecting the person you want to highlight, and then going in, because, as one of my favorite parts about your brand is the labels, which the front label's fantastic, but the back label is just as cool with the history lesson. I mean, like, what's it like going through and kind of figuring this out and figuring out who you want to do and then dive into that?
It's a team effort. Thanks for the kudos on the label. We did early days. We won a platinum award from the Ascot Awards for marketing for the label design, and we think it's distinctive. Helps us stand out on increasingly crowded shelves.
And a lot of fun to put on a bottle that you got 3 different labels that go on there.
Yeah, our bottling partners love the 3-part label.
But it looks good. It looks good, though.
It does look good.
They're
It
like,
looks really good.
what? They're like, did some marketing guy designed this? I'm like, well, we kind of came up with it ourselves and had our designers go at it. But some things we just come up with them. Andre had the great idea in 2022. It was the 125th anniversary of the Bottled and Bond Act, and Andre said, "Hey, we're not bottled and bond, but." He said, we should name it after John G. Carlisle of Covington. He's the father of the Bottle and Bond Act, U.S. Senator from Covington, and then as Secretary of the Treasury under Grover Cleveland, he helped get the Bottle and Bond Act passed. So, that was a great idea.
Which is fitting that we're talking on Bottled and Bond Day. I mean, this will drop later, but it's Bottled and Bond Day when we're drinking.
That's right. And then we have a book. We have a book with the history of every U.S. Senator from Kentucky. So we consult that from time to time. And I mean, I'll let you in on a secret that hasn't been released yet about
Love secrets.
TV has a label, but we can, if you want, we can give you the exclusive on the show of what our next release is going to be named for and how we came up with it.
Are we which state are we talking about? Hold on, which state?
Kentucky Senator Bourbon.
Okay.
I'm all in.
All right, the 7th release is going to be named for U.S. Senator Jim Bunning from Campbell County in northern Kentucky. He passed away in 2017. He was my political mentor. He discovered me at a Lincoln Day dinner in Grant County, Kentucky, when I worked at Turfway Park in the 1990s. And he took me under his wing, and I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for Jim Bunning. And I'm very good friends with several of his adult children and some of his numerous grandchildren. And I was asked because if someone has been deceased for less than 50 years, you have to get permission from their estate or their family to use their name, image, likeness. So when when we used John Sherman Cooper a few years ago, I had to go down to Somerset and meet with his heirs to ask for permission. Jim Bunning's family asked if we would do a release honoring Jim while his widow and his awesome wife of 63 years, Mary Bunning, was still with us, and she's 93 years old. And
Wow.
I thought, to be asked by the family to do that was this pretty special thing. And for me, I was just this kid from Michigan who moved to Kentucky in 1992 to work in horse racing, and to kind of be picked out and elevated by Jim Bunning is, one of the biggest things that's happened in my entire life. And so we're real honored to do it. And I'll let Andre talk a little bit about the baseball connection too.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun trying to pick which senators to use. Of course, Senator Bunning was a great proponent of everything in Kentucky and was a fantastic baseball player. 12 years in the major leagues. Not 12. Was it 12? I think 12.
But he was 12 years in the U.S. Senate.
12 years in the Senate. Excuse me, 18. I think 18 years in baseball. One of the things that we really have been trying to do is talk to the Hall of Fame about maybe doing some event up there. So I'm still trying to make those connections, but we think that would be really neat. But we want to also have some geographical diversity through the state, and as we think ahead to some of our releases, it would be nice to find distilleries in those areas that we could partner up with and say, well, this is a bourbon from Western Kentucky, so let's do something maybe with Jackson Purchase or something with somebody out there, or maybe if we go back to North. Of course, for the Bunning release, we're doing this vertical right now. We may not always do vertical, so it'd be nice maybe something in the future with another Northern Kentucky senator to maybe do something with New Riff if they're open to that idea. We really like the idea of collaborating with some of our distillery partners. We think that would be neat. Now that we're doing the Jim Bunning release, maybe down the road we'll have a second leg to a baseball series. We do have another Kentucky senator who is the first commissioner of baseball. So, we're just trying to look at these different angles that we can use to help promote and market our brand. But the most important thing is that we always have good bourbon. That's the number one rule.
So just to finish up on the Bunning thing, he pitched for the Philadelphia Phillies and the Detroit Tigers. He had a no-hitter and then a perfect game on Father's Day. And he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York in 1996. He was a fierce competitor, and he took his athletic winning attitude to politics. He first was elected to the Fort Thomas City Council and then the state Senate, where he was the Republican leader when there were only 8 Republicans in the state Senate. And then he ran for governor, and he did not get elected. He ran against Martha Lane Collins, but then he ran for Congress from Northern Kentucky when Gene Snyder retired. So he served in the U.S. House of Representatives from, I think, 1984 or 86 until 1998 when he was elected to the U.S. Senate. He served there for 2 terms, and he was the sponsor of the resolution that named September Bourbon Heritage Month and named bourbon as Kentucky's native spirit. So a really strong connection to bourbon from my mentor in politics, Jim Bunning, who really went to bat, pardon the pun, pitcher, went to bat for bourbon in Washington, D.C., and that you can ask Eric Gregory at the KDA. That was a big deal to get that, Bourbon Heritage Month, September, and then, Kentucky's native spirit, big monikers, big branding. And so we're doubling down. We are going to double the number of barrels that we bottle. We're gonna bottle up 20 barrels of the 8.5-year-old Jim Bunning release of Kentucky Senator Bourbon, which is twice as many as we did last year. And most of our early releases were 6 or 7 barrels. Then the Edwards was 10. As we're expanding into other states and expanding our online sales, now we're going to go to 20. And 5 of them are going to be single barrels. And they're all going to be at cask strength. And then we're going to have the 15-barrel small batch proofed to 107, which is our traditional 107 proof for all of our small batches.
Well, I love how you said that, because it's like you knew what I wanted to ask next and what we were going to do next. Because you haven't bottled, when we're talking, you haven't bottled the Bunning release yet. But we do have some samples of the single barrels that are coming out. Brandon and I are lucky enough to have the Liquor Barn single barrel pick that Brad did, that we weren't able to get there because, Brandon was down in Carousel, really roughing it during that time.
At least you didn't get stranded. I got stranded in St. Croix on January 3rd during the Great Caribbean airspace shutdown. Invaded Venezuela. So, I mean, being stuck in St. Croix for 5 extra days wasn't bad, but.
That's what I said. All of my friends and family were just like, "Why are you going down there? It's real close to Venezuela." And I was like, "If I get stuck, okay, who cares? Like, I think I'll be all right."
Well, topic for another day. But I was in Venezuela last week.
Nice.
On a horse racing project.
Oh,
privatization is coming. But that's all I can say about that. Let's get back to bourbon.
We're gonna get back to bourbon because we can go down some rabbit holes here because we've been drinking.
Yes.
But I want to talk about, you mentioned, though, every other release, no matter what, if it was single barrel or the normal releases are 107, Louisiana Senator, Kentucky Senator, even the single barrels were 107. But Louisiana Senator broke the mold, and you guys gave the option for everyone to do 107 or barrel strength, and I believe everyone took barrel strength or cask strength, however you want to call it. So... this one with Brad, who we love over at Liquor Barn. Tell us a little bit about this. Well, we'll drink this one. Just tell us a little bit about why you guys wanted to, do the cask strength this time, or at least offer that option, because it's a whole different ball game with single barrels.
There's been a lot of headwinds in the marketplace, right? So. One of our issues has been 107, and Damon and I talked a lot about this because that is part of our brand proposition, is that we're going to be a high proof bourbon. But as we were talking about the single barrels and talking with our single barrel partners, they definitely expressed an interest in going to barrel strength. Barrel strength has a lot of benefits. It gives people a lot of control of how they want to drink their bourbon, lets them decide how much water they want to put in it. And also from a brand point of view of wanting to remain as a ultra premium brand, we believe it adds some more value to the consumer as well. So there's going to be a slight price differential between the 107 and the barrel proof. From the retail point of view, it would be $10 or $15 more depending on which retail partner it is. We're going to let them make that decision for themselves. So there will be a slight variation on that. But we didn't think it was outside of the realm of what we were doing, since we were already at 107. It's not like we're going to sit on the shelf over here at 84 and then be at 124. Now these particular barrels that we've done, the John Edwards release and now the Bunning release, they all went in the barrel at 120. And they've really matured on the heavier alcohol.
They didn't come out of the barrel like that.
They've all come out a little bit stronger. But it's been a good exercise. And we think it just, we want to offer some value to the market, and we think by doing that we can do that. Still maintain our 107 for our small batch, and still be at the kind of price points that we want to be at.
Man, so this nose is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, so you've got a sample of the Liquor Barn barrel pick. Liquor Barn and Brad Williams, they've been with us since our second release. You guys were there. And Brad came down to Bardstown Bourbon Company, where our barrels are stored, where we're bottling, tasted through these barrels, and picked an absolute banger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, all of our single barrel partners chose to go with barrel strength, cask-strength bourbon.
Yep.
And why don't you go ahead and let your viewers know what the Liquor Barn barrel pick came in at?
125.9.
Yep.
And it does not drink that.
We couldn't believe it. Jake, who runs the single barrel program at BBC, he kept all the proofs secret in each of our barrel picks, and we all thought, 115-ish, maybe 116, and then he reads out this proof of 125. It drinks so smooth, and we're so excited that bourbon connoisseurs are going to have the availability of our 107 proof small batch. But the single barrels, I'll let you know who our partners are going to be. Obviously, Liquor Barn, Justin's House of Bourbon, and they'll have some of that available online at Bourbon Outfitter. The Kroger stores in northern Kentucky, where Jim Bunning is from, they did a barrel pick. And then Bayou Bluegrass Catering, business associates of Andre's, they did a barrel pick for their catering business. They cater 1,200 events a year in Kentucky. And then we're doing a single barrel in conjunction with the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund. So it's a charitable endeavor for us, where we will donate some of the proceeds from our sales to the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund, PDJF, which helps fund 51 permanently disabled jockeys who get a check from the PDJF every month. They were injured, while involved in horse racing. We're big supporters of that charity. And so Frank and Dino's in Lexington and Blinker's Tavern in northern Kentucky did a single barrel where jockey Julian Leperoux actually led the way on doing the pick. And so we're going to make a contribution to PDJF, Frank and Dino's, and Blinkers. They'll make a contribution. And then we're also going to have some of these single barrels benefiting the PDJF available on our website. So we're pretty excited to have 5 different single barrels. They all, we did the Justin single barrel pick today with Ryan Alvis, the general manager of Justin, and their single barrel pick came in at 124.6.
Nice.
Got a little scar here in the bottom of the bottle.
Weak.
We thieved for this right from the barrel today.
Well, I think it's fantastic, man. I think
that is dangerous. Like that one
is.
That, like you said,
Yeah.
I know, like knowing this backstory of that he didn't give you what it was. Blind never would get at 125, which is fantastic, but also be careful.
Yeah.
But it drinks really smooth. Really smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Jake at Bardstown Bourbon Company, who runs the single barrel program, he kept track of which barrels it was, and then so we originally pulled 5 down, and then we substituted as we pulled them out. But he kept all the notes. So Damon and I were there the whole time, and I picked the same barrel 4 out of 5 times, and it was never picked by the group.
But that's good. That's good, Andre. Going back in the small batch.
Yeah.
Like there was a barrel today, barrel number 2, that was really spicy, and I was kind of glad that Ryan didn't pick it, because I wanted that back in the small batch. And we usually have 7 or 8 people there. Some of our investors, we invite influencers like you guys, and Ryan and his team get the final say because it's their single barrel. But it's interesting that they picked barrel number 5 today. Yeah. And the majority opinion in the room that was the best one. So I'm drinking that right now. Wow. You're drinking the Liquor Barn pick. These will be available and pretty soon. Obviously this isn't live, today is March
Yep.
3rd. We're going to bottle on March 5th. Hopefully Kentucky Eagle picks it up next week. It's got to sit in their warehouse for a couple days. Some old archaic law that I wasn't able to get repealed while I was there, guys. And then, Kentucky Eagle will start getting this out hopefully by the end of this month and into April.
Well, I'm super excited about it because I don't know if you guys remember me getting your ear on every barrel pick that we've been a part of. It's like y'all need to do a barrel strength. Do a barrel strength. Do it after some senator or whoever, and just do a big thing about it. But I'm super excited about it because that barrel strength is my absolute favorite preference. Obviously, just because I just love how much flavor you get from the barrel strength. It's just so much flavor in it. And like Andre said, you've got so many options with it. You can add a couple of drops of water. You can put an ice cube in it. It'll stand up to cocktails. There's just so many different options. But this is fantastic. Like, kudos, well done. I'll definitely be looking out for a bottle for this when it does release. But
I mean, Brandon, it's right in our wheelhouse. It's a high rye.
exactly.
It qualifies as a high rye.
75, 21, and 4. Same mass bill as the Edwards, just a year older. And Brandon, you're right. You were the first one who got in our ear and said, you guys need to do barrel strength. And we were new to the business and finding our way. And then, finally when our barrel pick partners started saying, hey, what about doing it at barrel strength? So here we are. Your idea come to fruition. So
cheers. I'm super excited about it.
Well, there's also some marketing to it as well, in the sense that we want our barrel partners to also carry some of our flagship brand, right?
Right.
And if they're both at 107, the consumer's like, well, what's the difference here? So now when they go to Justin's House, Suburban or Liquor Barn or Kroger's, they can say, look, I can get a 107, I can get a cask-strength, I can see what some of the differences are.
Yeah.
It fits well from a brand point of view, and also from a consumer point of view. And there were some awesome barrels that we tasted. We could not be more pleased with how our barrels have turned out. I mean, once in a while you taste one that isn't that's just flat and neutral, and not every barrel is going to be great, and you're going to put those back in the blend. But and for Damon and I to get to sit down with guys like Brad Williams or Ryan Alves from Justice House of Bourbon, and I mean, it's been an education for Damon and I, or Jane and Denny, and then Jake over at Bardstown. I mean, he's drinking bourbons all day long, and it's helped Damon and I work through the process as well. We didn't come up. We weren't like, there's some guys out there that have brands that spent, 10, 20 years working at distilleries and have really kind of, gotten their tasting notes down. And it's a process that Damon and I are going through. And we've had some great mentors giving us some guidance. And it's awesome to sit down with those folks.
Well,
a couple of quick marketing notes.
The marketing guy with marketing notes. I like it.
The small batch, aged an extra year, we are not raising the price. Normally we would take a $10 to $15, $20 increase with an extra year's aging. Mm-hmm. We're keeping the suggested retail price at $119.99 for the small batch. We are cognizant of what's happening in the market right now. We know people have a lot of choice, and we're in that super premium category, but we're keeping the price the same. The other thing is this will be widely available at liquor stores, bars, and restaurants around Kentucky. We're distributed in Illinois, Louisiana, Florida. We're trying to get into 2 new states, maybe Georgia, maybe Texas. We'll also be available online at Bourbon Outfitter and at our website, which is kysenatorbourbon.com. And people can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And another thing I wanted to tell you guys is we did the Bourbon Classic for the first time this past weekend.
Oh, okay.
We're jealous.
It was pretty cool for us, for our little startup brand to be there at the Bourbon Classic was pretty cool. We had a lot of people come up to us from other states, and they said, "Look, I want to try something I've never had before." And so we poured a lot of the Edwards release, and that was really fun. And we're trying to figure out our way forward to participate in the Kentucky Bourbon Festival in September.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I got fingers crossed on that one because that's Brandon and I's favorite event. But there are plenty of good ones. Bourbon Classic, Bourbon Con Lexington, Bourbon on the Banks. There's so many in Kentucky that are great. And we love your transparency, too. I think that's one of the things that we gravitated towards y'all with, just how transparent you were with all the partners you work with, different things you work with. So I got to know, like, working with all those partners and how things have changed. When you all were looking for that first barrel, first tote, whatever you want to call it, life was different in the bourbon industry in COVID times. Now we're at what I would love to say is the mature stage of bourbon where, things are different. There's a lot of barrels out there. There's a lot of different things out there. So what is life like for y'all now when it comes to sourcing and doing stuff? Because, again, like I said, we love you guys would be up front. You got from Barton, you got from this, you got from wherever. You talk about where you're working now. So what is it like working, and what has changed since y'all started? Because I feel like it's been a little different.
Yeah, I'll take a shot at that one. When we started, it was extremely competitive, to find bourbon. That's why Damon and I, went up all these different rabbit holes. And we were very, very fortunate with our first acquisition, which was that 15-year bourbon, which was all the money we had. I mean, we put all of our money in one tote of bourbon and watched it literally drive in the back of a pickup truck down the road. You're like, this is crazy.
And you're praying that truck doesn't, nothing happens.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if insurance covers a non-commercial driver, but anyway, you didn't say that.
No.
But it's changed a lot. When I think a lot of people, a lot of new distilleries popped up, some quite small, new contract distillers. And I think a lot of people also fail to realize or don't really, they know it's there, is our heritage distillers also significantly increased their capacity over the last 5 years. And Damon and I are now being approached directly by heritage distillers to buy bourbon directly from them. That, not even
a rough life.
Not even with a broker in the middle. And it's a totally different position than where we were. And going back to what I said earlier about what I think is one of the benefits of being a non-distillery producer is Damon and I now have more options of bourbon that we can look at to curate for our releases. But it's also changed our business model, because when we were putting our business model together in 23 and 24 and doing a fundraiser, we were watching bourbon go up $1,000 a year a barrel. So we're like, we got to take all of our money and dump it into new fill, cross our fingers and wait. Well, we've got a lot of new fill we bought, but that's not what we're focusing on now. We're focusing on what are the opportunities because of the way we name our bourbons after different senators and even brand extensions. If we come across bourbon that's just fantastic, then we can acquire it and do a release. And that gives us some flexibility, but it has absolutely changed, not only in who you're talking to, but also in the pricing as well.
Yeah, so 2.5 years ago, we leaned heavily into contract distilling. And we've got some new fill barrels aging at Whiskey Thief, Potter Jane, Castle and Key. We've tasted them at various stages. They're delicious.
Yeah.
But things changed in the last 12 months, and now we can buy sourced aged bourbon for basically the same as doing new fill. So the great thing about us, we call ourselves two guys and an intern. We have that's it. We have a lot of partners.
They're not lying. They're not lying.
But we can pivot pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've started to do. We've kind of gone back to where we started, and we've bought a lot of really good sourced barrels. I mean, we've got some 11-year juice that we've got aging at Whiskey Thief. It's not Whiskey Thief bourbon, but it's aging at Whiskey Thief. And we just stay tuned. A year from now, we may have something really special to announce with that 12-year bourbon when a certain someone retires from the United States Senate. And
Don't know what you're talking about. Got nothing.
I think to kind of go back to what I was saying, I think there's two things. One, there obviously is a change in the market and the availability of bourbon, and we're taking advantage of that. But we did our first release 5 years ago, which means Damon and I started talking to people 6.5 years ago. And 6.5 years ago, we were just two guys that had a label that were trying to buy some bourbon, and we didn't know anything. And Richard Wolf was the first consultant we spoke to, and he was kind enough to meet with us and give us some guidance. And there were a few people that we could meet with here and there. And to think that in 6.5 years we've gone from the difficulty of finding a bottling partner to now having distilleries contact us directly because they must think we're doing something right. And we had a great relationship with Bluegrass Distillers and did 5 bottlings with them. But we've moved our bottling to Barstown Bourbon Company, and they are the most sophisticated contract distilling partner in the country right now. And we couldn't have been there 5.5 years ago. And I don't think that's just because of the changes in the market. I think that's also because Damon and I have a proven track record now of releasing good bourbon, of doing it right, of being slow and methodical. And we're still very hands-on. We're at the Bourbon Classic. I love it when people come up to our booth and they're like, well, what's your association with the brand? And we're like, we're the founders.
That's
And it changes the conversation. People want to know, well, how'd you do it, and what are you doing, and what are you doing different, and why should I buy bourbon from you? So our proven track record and some changes in the industry are really creating some opportunities for us.
I love that because it's so cool to see what y'all have done. Brandon, any thoughts? Last questions?
Yeah, I think Damon already hit it, but just my only question is that if you can, I know you mentioned the 12-year and somebody may be retiring soon, but any other special projects, releases that you might want to be able to speak on? If you can't, we understand. We can talk
I don't
offline.
know. Are we getting a rye at some point? Please.
we would probably do a rye under a different but similar name.
Okay.
I just can't say it out loud.
Yeah.
But we've thought about someday doing a rye whiskey. There's lots of possibilities with historical governmental tie-ins.
Yeah.
The big thing is with this juice that'll be 12 a year from now, we're working on something really special. You know what it is. I'm not going to say it out loud.
Yeah.
There's only one current U.S. Senator from Kentucky who's retiring next January, and it's the number one question we get.
Yep.
So that, and we're really excited about the juice we have aging at Kentucky Distilleries. We've got some juice that's now 2 years old that we contract distilled at Whiskey Thief. We've got some juice that's just over 1 year old at Castle and Key, and then we've got some barrels, 300 barrels, our biggest allotment at Potter Jane. They'll turn 1 in May, and we actually at Castle and Key and at Potter Jane, we split our allotment between a rye bourbon and a wheated bourbon.
Oh, okay.
So I guess there will be a wheated Kentucky Senator Bourbon sometime in the future.
Well, we also have some aged wheated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'll be coming too.
I think with this being the 250th anniversary of our country, we might do something in the fall in recognition of that. Our focus right now is on the Jim Bunning release. This is
of course
for us to double our production, to go from 2 single barrel partners to 5. I mean those are all big moves for us, and we want to really make sure that we lean into this and do it right. Trying to do some more shows, trying to add the Kentucky Bourbon Festival this year, added Bourbon Classic. Next year we'll definitely add Bourbon Con in Lexington, doing the New Orleans Bourbon Festival and the Louisiana Bourbon Festival in the fall. So we're just trying to build this out smartly, while staying very founder oriented.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, y'all's palate is fantastic. These pours are great. I love it. I know you guys are in the what everyone would dub the ultra premium level. 110s up above 100. But there's quality juice there, and it's real cool to see what you guys have done. And like I said, it's been cool to be part of this process, and we're very appreciative of that. And
absolutely,
thank y'all for sharing these pours and sharing the story with us.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you guys. You're the first podcast we've done to promote the Jim Bunning release. You got a little bit of an exclusive tonight, and
we appreciate
we
that.
hope
Thank you.
viewers and listeners have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We believe in being transparent. We do. I'm a business consultant in the horse racing space. Andre's a lawyer. We do this. We both spent a lot of time on it while juggling our other jobs. But the great thing is that we're able to we have investors, but we have sole control. So we get to make the decisions.
Yep.
But we also know we're marketers, and we're still learning about the bourbon trade. So we take advice from people, Brandon, and we're able to pivot. We're able to pivot on pricing. We're able to pivot on the timing of releases. We're able to pivot on the proof, the single barrels, because we have great partners. BBC for bottling, Kentucky Eagle for distribution, Turner Labels for our labels, and we have a great intern too, Megan Camden, UK intern.
Nice.
We're going to lose her when she graduates, so we're looking for a new intern.
Nice.
Well, I've loved everything. And last thing, where can everyone find things? Because like you said, there are some things that are going to become available online. So as we wrap up, where can they find more information?
KYSenatorBourbon.com. That's the repository of all the information. Or our Facebook, Kentucky Senator Bourbon. You can buy the John Edwards release and the Huey Long release at BourbonOutfitter.com. And those are great partners. If you've got a DTC state where shipping is allowed, BourbonOutfitter.com. And also the Louisiana Senator is available at our website, KYSenatorBourbon.com. And the Bunning release will be available at KYSenatorBourbon.com. So either BourbonOutfitter.com or KYSenatorBourbon.com. Pick your pleasure. It'll be available there. Both fulfillment houses do a great job, and we're happy to be affiliated with them.
And I'll tell everybody right now that's listening, please be on the lookout for the Jim Bunning release, because that's
good.
chef's kiss. That's a really good. It's good. Y'all will really, really enjoy that one. So
thanks, guys. No price increase from last year.
Love it. I love it.
We really appreciate
Andre.
it. Thanks for having us, guys. Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you,
Cheers.
guys. We appreciate you guys. Thank you. Cheers.